Hello everyone, my name is David Luchford and welcome to lesson 44 of my Ancient Greek course. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at adjectives in aorist s. But before we do that, let's take a look at my virtual sets of shelves. If we do that, we shall see that recently, Iui has supported my channel by buying 5 virtual amphorae, and so has Andrea. So thank you very much, Iui and Andrea. I greatly appreciate the support. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that this set of shelves has been filled with amphorae. But wait, because with just one press of a button, I can open the shelves at the bottom to reveal that Ildikor has bought me a staggering 15 virtual amphorae recently. So thank you very much for that, Ildikor. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope that all of you enjoyed that plot twist with the doors swinging open so dramatically to reveal 15 beautiful virtual amphorae. And I would also like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has supported my channel in the past. I greatly appreciate all of the support. And, as I've said, I greatly appreciate all of the likes, comments, and subscriptions. So, please do be sure to like the video if you enjoy it, to comment if you have anything to say about it, and to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. By the way, in case you're wondering what this is, this creature is a pangolin, and it's on the shelf because recently it was World Pangolin Day. And it is our custom to put something that is appropriate according to the particular celebration or time of year on this shelf. So since it was World Pangolin Day recently, we have a model of a pangolin here. Now, if you would like to add a virtual amphora or virtual amphorae to my virtual shelves, then you can do so at the link in the description below. But for now, let's speak about adjectives in aorist s. And let me begin by reminding you that last time we learned about adjectives in on. For example, eudaimon, which means happy or fortunate or prosperous. Adjectives in on are the first type of third declension adjectives that we learned about. Another type of third declension adjectives is adjectives in aorist s. Now, these adjectives are also two termination, meaning that they have just two sets of endings, a masculine/feminine set and a neuter set. So the fact that they're adjectives in aorist s lets us know that they end in s, eta sigma, in the masculine/feminine nominative singular, and they end in s, that is epsilon sigma, in the neuter nominative singular. An example that will be our paradigm is alertes, meaning true. You can see that it ends in s in the masculine/feminine nominative singular, and this ending lets us know that the neuter nominative singular would be alertes, and so this adjective ends in s in the neuter nominative singular. It's an adjective in aorist s. And we're going to see how alertes, meaning true, declines in order to know how adjectives in aorist s decline. Here is the declension of alertes, meaning true. In the masculine/feminine, it declines as follows: alertes, alerter, alertus, alerte, alertes, 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 alerton, alertesin. And in the neuter, it declines as follows: alertes, alertes, alertus, alerte, alerter, alerter,
alerton,
and alertesin. Now, if you have learned the full third declension as taught in my videos, then you should recognise the endings that are being used here. Because these masculine/feminine endings are identical to those of a 3D noun of the first kind, like trieres. If you know how trieres declines, then you know how adjectives in ASS decline in the masculine/feminine, since they use exactly the same endings. And these endings are produced in the same way. That is to say, adjectives in ASS have oblique stems ending in epsilon. So, for example, the oblique stem of this adjective is alerte. And then what happens is we add the usual third declension endings for masculine or feminine nouns, and they contract with the epsilon at the end of the adjective stem.
So, the masculine/feminine accusative singular form, alerter, is actually alerte plus a, that is alpha, because alpha is the standard or basic accusative singular ending for masculine or feminine nouns in the third declension. Now, when we have epsilon plus alpha, we get eta, so the resulting form is alerter. And this happens in the other forms following the nominative singular as well, except for the vocative singular, which is a shortened version of the nominative singular. But all of the other forms following the nominative singular in the masculine/feminine are forms that are produced by contraction.
So alertus is really alerte plus os. Alerte is really alerte plus iota. Similarly, alertes is really alerte plus s. And then alertes in the accusative plural of the masculine/feminine is borrowed from the nominative plural. That one isn't actually produced by taking e and adding us, because e plus us wouldn't make ace. So it's actually just a borrowing of the nominative plural form.
Now, with regard to the genitive plural, alerton is actually alerte plus orn. So a contraction has happened there too. But in the dative plural, the ending begins with a consonant, and so no contraction happens there, and you can actually see the epsilon of the oblique stem. So do remember that the epsilon of the oblique stem is present in the dative plural.
Now, all of this happens in the declension of trieres, meaning trireme. So, if you know how a 3D noun like trieres declines, then you know how an adjective like alertes, that is, an adjective in ASS, declines in the masculine/feminine. But what about the neuter endings? Well, I have good news for you here as well, ladies and gentlemen, because the neuter endings, after the nominative and accusative singular, are actually the same as the endings of a 3C noun like xipos, because xipos would decline as follows. It would go xipos, xipos. So those first two are different because you've got SS rather than os. But then it goes xipus, xipe, xiper, xiper, xipon, and then xipesin with the epsilon. So I'm going to put like xipos but with an asterisk because of those two differences that we've mentioned, namely that the nominative and the accusative singular in the neuter end in ss rather than os.
And I should emphasise that since I haven't listed a distinct vocative singular form in the neuter, the vocative singular would also end in s. So, the difference between the endings of an adjective in s in the neuter and the endings of xipos is that an adjective in s in the neuter will have s as the ending in the nominative, accusative, and vocative singular, whereas a 3C noun like xipos will have os there instead.
The other endings, though, are exactly the same as those of xipos, and that's because, like xipos, adjectives in ss in the neuter have an oblique stem ending in epsilon, as they do in the masculine/feminine, and then they use the standard set of endings for neuter third declension nouns. But those neuter endings contract with the epsilon in the adjective stem most of the time. So that's why, once again, we have us, a, that's actually eos and ei. And then in the plural, we have that's actually plus a, alpha, because alpha is the usual nominative/accusative plural ending for neuter nouns in the third declension.
Then the genitive plural, alea torn, is alea te plus orn. And the dative plural, alea tessin, is alea te plus sin. There no contraction takes place because the ending begins with a consonant, which means that the epsilon of the oblique stem persists, as in the masculine/feminine dative plural.
Anyway, I hope that what I've said helps you to remember how adjectives in ss decline. If you would like to note down the declension of alea tes with the annotations that I've made, please do pause the video and note it and them down now. But if you would like to note down the declension of alea tes without my annotations, then please pause the video and do that now. Okay, we've already met the adjective alea tes, meaning true, and I'm now going to introduce you to some more adjectives in ss. The first of which is atuches, meaning unfortunate or unlucky. Now we can remember the meaning of this adjective by noting that tucher means luck or fortune. And so if you are atuches, then you are unlucky or unfortunate because you are literally without luck. Since that alpha prefix at the start, alpha privative, indicates an absence of the quality mentioned. A similar adjective is dustuches, meaning unfortunate or unlucky, and this adjective has the same meanings because the prefix dus means bad. So if you are dustuches, it means you have bad luck. Whereas, if you are eutuches, then you are fortunate or lucky. Because the prefix eu means well or good, and tucher means luck, so if you are eutuches, then you have good luck. Or in other words, you're fortunate or lucky. We also have the adjective eugenes, meaning noble or well-born. This comes from the prefix eu, meaning well or good, and the noun genos. Genos is a 3C noun, meaning race, kin, stock, family, or tribe. So eugenes literally means that you're of good stock. And you can see that the word eugenes is related to the English word eugenics. A program of eugenics is meant to produce people of good stock. Fifthly, we have the adjective euklees, meaning famous or renowned. Once again, This is a compound adjective, and we have the prefix au, meaning well or good, and the kleos part comes from the noun kleos, which means glory. So, if you are eukletos, then you're of good glory or of good reputation, meaning that you are famous or renowned. Next, we have the adjective pleres, meaning full of, and the thing that something is full of goes in the genitive, which is to be expected since the basic meaning of the genitive is of. Now, this is etymologically linked to the word plertos, meaning crowd. They both come from the same Proto-Indo-European stem, and that stem is to do with filling. A crowd fills an area, and pleres means full of. And that stem exists in the word plethora in English. If you have a plethora of something, then there's a lot of it. It fills up the space. So, pleres means full of. The next one is sopes, meaning clear. This is not to be confused with sopos, meaning wise or clever. Sopos is linked to words like philosopher. A philosopher is etymologically a lover of wisdom, because sophia means wisdom, sopos means wise or clever. So if you can remember those other words that are to do with wisdom or cleverness that involve the O, then that should enable you to distinguish sopos from sopes. There are also different kinds of adjectives. Sopos is a 2-1-2 adjective, while sopes is an adjective in s. I'm not sure if we get any derivatives from it. None immediately come to mind. If you can think of a derivative from sopes, then please do share it in the comments below. And finally, we have the adjective pseudes, meaning false. This adjective gives us the prefix pseudo, as in pseudoscience, for example. A pseudoscience is etymologically a false science. Please do pause the video and note down these adjectives and their meanings. Okay, we can now do some practice with adjectives in ASS. And you should know the drill at this point. Exercise 1 asks you to state the gender, case, and number of the adjectives on the screen. Since you now know how adjectives in ASS decline, you should be able to do this. You need to state all of the possibilities here. So consider all of the possible options with regard to the gender, case, and number of each of these adjectives by looking at the ending and either mentally consulting the declension of alertes if you think you've learned it already, or if you'll prefer, you could instead consult your table that you've written out. It's up to you whether you just want to practice with the table or test yourself if you believe you've learned it already. With that said, please do pause the video and state the gender, case, and number of these adjectives. Okay, to go through the answers. Number 1, sopes, is masculine or feminine vocative singular, or neuter nominative or accusative or vocative singular. The masculine/feminine vocative singular form is unique and it ends in s, that is epsilon sigma, but so does the neuter nominative or accusative singular form and the neuter vocative singular form. Since I didn't list a distinct neuter vocative singular form, that means that the neuter vocative singular looks like the neuter nominative singular, meaning that it would also end in s, epsilon sigma. Number 2, eukleus is masculine or feminine or neuter genitive singular. Number 3, plere is masculine or feminine accusative singular or neuter nominative or accusative or vocative plural. Number 4, alertes is masculine or feminine, nominative, accusative, or vocative plural. Number 5, dus tu gezien, is masculine or feminine or neuter, dative plural. Number 6, eu tu gers, is masculine or feminine, nominative, singular. Number 7,
pseudon,
is masculine or feminine or neuter, genitive, plural. Number 8, eugene, is masculine, feminine, or neuter, dative, singular. If you have any questions about any of these, please do post them in the comments below. But now I have a translation exercise for you. Here I've created 5 Greek sentences for you to translate into English. I have glossed 3 words in these sentences in the word bank, and I should say that one of them, the verb boeteor, means help, but the person you help goes in the dative. It's one of these verbs that takes its object, its direct object, in the dative rather than the accusative, so do bear that in mind.
One other thing that I should note, which I should have noted in my video on polus and megas, is that when polus is used in the plural in Greek to identify many of a particular group, it's usually used with the definite article, even though we wouldn't say the here in English. For example, in Greek, they would typically say the many of the men, using the definite article before the word many, but we would not say the there in English. Do bear that in mind when it comes to number 5.
Anyway, please do pause the video and translate these sentences into English. Okay, number 1 is tous retoras misor, tagar alerte ulegusin. You should have translated this one as, I hate the politicians, or just politicians, for they do not say true things. Or you could have alternatively said, I hate the politicians, or just politicians, for they do not speak the truth. You might have realised that the truth sounds more natural in English than saying true things, but the Greek does literally say true things. So either of these would be fine, especially considering I didn't mention to you that you can render this more idiomatically by saying the truth as opposed to true things. But why did it mean this? Well, at the start we have tous retoras, those are the politicians or the orators in the accusative plural. Then we have the verb misor. Miseor means to hate. And here it's in the first person singular form, the I form of the present indicative active, meaning that I do or am doing the action. So I hate the politicians. Now the definite article is sometimes used to indicate a general class, so this could just be politicians in general. So I hate the politicians or just politicians. Gar is a particle meaning for, and it explains the previous clause. So we have for, ta alerter is the adjective alertes, true, but here it's in the neuter accusative plural. It could in principle be neuter nominative plural, but we'll see that it's got to be neuter accusative plural because it's got to be the direct object of the verb here. And it's with the definite article ta. Now, if you've watched my video on substantive adjectives, then you will know that you can make an adjective into a noun in Greek. And since this adjective isn't going with any noun, we've just got ta alerter, literally the true, in the neuter accusative plural, we have to understand or supply the word things after it. So this literally says the true things. Since it's neuter and plural, we say things after it. Then we have u legusin. U is not, and legusin is they say or they speak. So this is speaking about the politicians now. They are now doing the action. We know that from the ending usin. So we've got for they do not speak ta alerter. Literally, true things. You could say the true things, but here it's probably making a general claim about true things as a class. So we'll just say true things. Or, in other words, the truth. And we can see that ta'alerter must be neuter accusative, plural, rather than neuter nominative or vocative, plural, because there's no way for it to be nominative or vocative in that clause. It's got to be the direct object of the verb legusin. It's the things that they say, the things that they literally speak or say, namely true things. Well, in this case, they don't speak or say those true things. Number 2 is oi moi, her agora esti pleras
klepton.
You should have translated this one as, oh no, the agora is full of thieves. We know that it means this because oi moi is oh no or oh dear. Then her agora is the agora in the nominative singular. Esti is, the third person singular present indicative form of Amy, the verb to be. Then we have pleres, which is the nominative singular form of the adjective. Here it's feminine nominative singular, since it is the complement of the verb to be, the subject of which is the agora. Agora is a feminine noun. And then the thing that something is full of goes in the genitive. And here we have the genitive plural form of the noun kleptes, meaning thief. So this literally says, oh no, the agora is full of thieves. Number 3 is hoc kubernetes doi dustuche naute nun boerte. You should have translated this one as, the captain is now helping the unlucky sailor, or now helps the unlucky sailor, or the unfortunate sailor. We know that it means this because the captain is in the nominative singular, so he's doing the action. Then we have toi dustuche naute. Toi naute is the sailor in the dative singular. But we have the adjective dustuche sandwiched in between the definite article and the noun. The adjective is being deployed in the sandwich construction, and here we have the masculine dative singular form of the adjective agreeing with naute, which is also masculine dative singular. So, although these endings look visually different, this is grammatically correct. And we might wonder why it's in the dative. We need to look at the rest of the sentence to know that. Afterwards we have nun, which means now, and then we have the verb boerte. Now the verb boerteor, as I put in the word bank, means help, and as I mentioned, it takes its object in the dative case, like pisteuor takes its object in the dative case. The person that somebody helps goes in the dative. You might think of this as giving your help to someone. So, this says, the captain now helps, or is now helping, the unlucky sailor. The reason he is in the dative is because he is the direct object of the verb boerte, and boerteor takes its object in the dative. And as a fun fact, a boer, as you know, is a shout, and the verb teor means to run. So if you boer teor, then you literally run to a shout, but that means run to help somebody. Fourthly, we have the sentence tous stratiotas pei tousin hoi logoi hoi tu eucleus strategu. You should have translated this sentence as, the words of the famous general persuade the soldiers. We know that it means this because we have the soldiers in the accusative plural at the start, so they must be the direct object of the verb. Then we have the verb peitusin. Now, peitor is the verb to persuade. Here it ends in usin, so they are doing the persuading. We know that the soldiers cannot be doing the persuading because they're in the accusative plural. So, although this isn't in the English word order, we know who's doing what from the endings. Hoi logoi are the words, and these are in the nominative plural. We know that from the form of the definite article and also from the ending of the noun. And so the words must be doing the action. The words are doing the persuading. However, they're not just any old words because we have a repeated definite article here letting us know more about them. In particular, they are the words tu eucleus strategu, namely, the ones of the renowned or famous general. So, we would translate this phrase here as the words of the famous general or the famous general's words. I kept it using of in my translation just because I thought that it sounded okay or nice in this instance, but you could have used apostrophe s. A lot of the time, apostrophe s sounds nicer. Anyway, overall, we have the words of the famous general persuade the soldiers. Fifthly, we have hoi men polloi ton doulon ac dus tuches, ego de eu tuches ami. You should have translated this one as, many of the slaves are unlucky, but I am lucky. We know that it means this because we do have a men de contrast, literally meaning on the one hand and on the other hand. So on the one hand, hoi polloi, many, I know it has the definite article, but a lot of the time, polloi has the definite article even though we would just say many in English rather than the many. Ton doulon tells us what there are many of, namely these slaves. So on the one hand, many of the slaves, AC, they are, or are, dus tuches, unlucky. De, on the other hand, egor means I. It's the nominative form of the pronoun. We haven't met all of the forms of the pronoun yet, but I did say in the word bank that it's the nominative form of I. It's used for emphasis in Greek because you could just say that I'm doing the action by using the first person singular ending of the verb. So this is just for emphasis here. On the other hand, the verb is Amy, I am eutyches, lucky or fortunate. So many of the slaves are unlucky, but I am lucky. And you can see that dus tuches is masculine nominative plural, like polloi, because the many are being described as unlucky. These words need to agree in gender, case, and number. Whereas the speaker here is just one person, and so they've used the masculine/feminine nominative singular form of the adjective when describing themselves.
Now, before we move on from this sentence, I just want to point out that I could have, and probably should have, elided a word in this sentence. Can you see which word in the sentence should have been elided? That is, where should elision have occurred in this sentence? Take a moment to see if you can spot it. To reveal the answer, I should have elided the particle der. I should have dropped the epsilon, leaving just d, in response to the next word beginning in a diphthong. However, elision doesn't always occur when you would expect it to.
Okay, I have one more exercise for you pertaining to adjectives in ASS. This is an English to Greek translation exercise. Please do pause the video and translate these English sentences into Greek. And remember, don't worry too much about the word order, because word order is very flexible in Greek. There are some things you need to abide by, like the position of particles, for instance, as to whether the particle is pre-positive or post-positive. And question words do come at the start of their clause or sentence, but Greek word order is generally very flexible. Okay, the first one of these is, the noble woman writes false letters, therefore she is evil. Here, you should have put something like the following. Che eugenes guner epistolas pseudes grape, kaker un estin. Now, you could have missed the word guner because you could have made this a substantive adjective instead and just had che eugenes, where the reader has to understand the word woman according to the fact that it's feminine and singular. But you could have included guner if you wanted to. Like I said, the word order is generally very flexible, so the units of this first sentence could have been in any order, but you did need che eugenes at least for the noble woman. You could have specified guner if you didn't make this a substantive adjective. Then epistolas pseudes is the correct form of false letters. It doesn't matter which side you put pseudes on, but the ending "ase" is the correct one because epistolas is feminine accusative plural, and we want the feminine accusative plural form of the adjective so that the adjective agrees with the noun. Grape is he, she, or it writes. Grapeor is the verb to write. We add the ending "a" to it because he, she, or it is doing the action. Here it's she because it's the noble woman that is doing the action. And grape plus "a" makes grape. So this says, the noble woman writes false letters. Kaker un estin. Here you did need to put un in the second position because it is a post-positive particle, meaning that it does not come first in the clause, it usually comes second. That's the word for therefore. Then she is would be estin. And we want the word kaker for evil. Kakos means evil, but here it's kaker because it's agreeing with the woman. It's agreeing with guner or the appropriate form of eugenes if that's all you had as a substantive adjective. And those are feminine and singular. And so we need the feminine singular form of kakos. We need the nominative form because the verb to be has the nominative on both sides. The subject and the complement both go in the nominative case. The second one is, why is the doctor famous? Here you should have put diati ho iatros estin eukleas. Diati means why. Literally it means on account of what, but we haven't met the word ti yet. But as a fun fact, that's literally what it means. We have met dia plus the accusative, meaning because of or on account of. But it's used to mean why, and question words go at the start of Greek sentences or clauses. So we'll put diati at the start. Then we could have had the other units of the sentence in different orders, but we did need, at some point, ho iatros, the doctor, in the nominative singular. We needed estin, he, she, or it is, and we needed eukletos, which is the masculine nominative singular form of the adjective. We need it to be masculine and singular because iatros is masculine and singular, and we need it to be nominative because with the verb to be, the subject and the complement both go in the nominative. Thirdly, we have the sentence, well-born maidens do not speak to slaves. Here, you should have put something like, Hai eugenes parthenoi tois doulois ulagusin. Now, you could have had the units of this sentence in different orders, but at some point we did need eugenes parthenoi or hai eugenes parthenoi for well-born maidens. I included the definite article because that can be used to indicate a general class, but you could have also just had eugenes parthenoi to mean well-born maidens. So this is well-born maidens in the nominative plural. They're in the nominative plural because they're the ones that are doing the action, or would be if it weren't negated. And then I've put tois doulois. That is the slaves in the dative. Now you could have just had doulois here, but I've put tois using the definite article to indicate a general class once again. But it needed to be dative and plural because it's two slaves. They're the ones being spoken to. They're the indirect object, and so they need to be in the dative. Then we need ou because it's not speak. And lagusin is they speak. We needed the ending usin because they are doing the action, namely the well-born maidens. And so that was the correct form of the verb. Overall then we have well-born maidens do not speak to slaves. But like I said, you could have omitted hai and tois, and you could have had the units of the sentence in different orders, but the meaning would have stayed the same. Because Greek word order is a lot more flexible than English word order. It's the endings of the words that matter most of all. Finally, we have the sentence, the teacher's words are clear. Here, you should have put hoi tu didaskalou logoi eisi sapes. Now, you could have put tu didaskalou simply after hoi logoi, or you could have deployed it using the repeated article construction. I've put it in between hoi and logoi. I've deployed it using the sandwich construction, but you did have different options there. Either way, we needed hoi logoi, the words in the nominative plural. They're the things that are the subject of the verb. They're the subject of the verb to be. They're the things that are something, so they need to be in the nominative plural. But they're not any old words, they are the teacher's words. Now, that is literally the words of the teacher, and so we need the teacher in the genitive case. And so, that is why I have put tu didaskalou here. That's the genitive singular form of didaskalos and the definite article. That's the masculine genitive singular definite article because didaskalos is a masculine noun. Like I said, I deployed it in the sandwich construction, but you could have used the repeated article construction or a plain deployment. So this says the words of the teacher. AC is are. In particular, it's they are. That's the correct form of Amy to use here, the third person plural form. And then sapes is the correct form of the word clear, because it is the masculine nominative plural form, and we need that because the word logoi is masculine and plural. And with the verb to be, both the subject and the complement go in the nominative case. Okay, let's now summarise our learning for lesson 44. Today, we've learned that a second type of third declension adjectives is adjectives in s. These adjectives use the endings of 3D nouns of the first kind in the masculine/feminine and the endings of 3C nouns in the neuter, although they have s in the neuter nominative/accusative/vocative singular rather than os. Remember that a 3C noun like siphos would have os in those three places, but these adjectives have s there instead in the neuter. And speaking of adjectives in ASS, we have met 9 of them today, and they are on the screen for your reference. We also met 2 new verbs, namely boer teor, meaning help, which takes its object in the dative, and peitor, which means persuade. But for now, let me say thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that you found it useful. If you did, please do give it a like, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And of course, if you have anything to say about the video, please do post it in the comments below. Now, you can see I have put an ancient Greek frog on the screen to brighten your day, and also to consolidate our learning for today, in that we could describe this frog using the following caption. Ho batrachos estin eugenes. Meaning, the frog is well born or noble. He's of noble birth. This is a noble frog right here, okay? He's of good stock. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I shall see you again next time.